like Uncle Sam. All right, you should be able to hear us, right? Because I'm hearing myself. We're going to mute ourselves. All right, can you hear us now? This means yes, meaning just say yes. And then we will reintroduce ourselves and say everything you didn't hear, word for word. Or maybe not. Can you hear us, though? Yes, all right, cool. All right, I am Sloan Lake and Peace. I'm Coach Nazir.
Alaikum peace, Coach Nyla.
And we are 2/3 of Outstanding Personal Relationships. Coach Fatimah is not with us today, but we just finished recording or filming, going with our live cast for our RMIC members. That's our Relationship Mastery Inner Circle members. So we just want to stop in, say what's up, hey, how you be, Stone Lake and Peace, and kind of summarize what we trained on together today, which was
effective communication for marital success, and especially in polygyny. Communication can be, the thing that propels and foster a great relationship, an amazing, outstanding marriage. It could be a thing that causes a breakdown in it. If the communication is pretty much not on point, not intentional, and those different things, and that was stuff and things and stuff. That was what we trained on in the RMIC training today. So we'll give you guys little tidbits and snippets, but if you want more information, definitely go to RMI.
all right. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the points. I'm doing some of the behind the scenes in front of the camera type stuff with the tech. Nevertheless, Coach Nyla is going to talk about some of the points she mentioned without going into too much depth, of course, but we want to be here maybe 20, 30 minutes. So if you do have some questions, please put a bunch of question marks before, probably after the question, and prayerfully we will be able to get to them. Also, let us know where you're tuning in from, what state, what country, what time zone. We always love to see that. We see King Kenyatta is patient, cannot read lips. Indeed. Thanks for letting us know you couldn't see us, so that's what's up. Alhamdulillah. So I'm glad that you can now hear us. But yeah, let us know and go ahead.
All right. So one of the things, go through a couple things quickly. Communication styles. Knowing that there are different types of communication styles. That wasn't a thing that was real clear to me before. Meaning that people communicate in different ways. Some people are more visual than visual communicators. Meaning that text, letters, email, stuff like that is the better way for them to get their point across. A lot of introverts are that way, and then you have the people who can hear it. They can hear it, they can understand it, and things as far as that. So knowing the communication style of yourself, knowing the communication style of your spouse, that is a big deal, because sometimes it's like we're speaking the different languages to each other, even though we're speaking the same language, but for some reason, things get lost in translation. One of the best things, or one of the best practices is to, for clarity's sake, is to ask, or not only just ask, kind of like they say, you listen, you understand, and you validate, but the validation part is more of a verification. I'll use verification instead of validate. And the verification is pretty much asking them, hey, this is what I got from what you said. Is this correct? Type of thing. So, when it comes to communicating is art. It's where you have to be intentional with it. It's not something that, you just do willy-nilly and think that everything is just going to fall into place, because as I stated before, we all have our different styles. We have our different way of receiving things and perceiving things, and it may not always be what the other person is trying to relay. So that's one of the things.
All right, shout out to Miami. We see you in the house. Turkey, I might be visiting there sometime soon, so who knows. Inshallah. Finland in the house with us. The Netherlands, yeah.
And another thing is the art of arguing. People's like, art of arguing. How do do you win an argument, guys? Well, one of the best ways is just not to argue in the first place. Yeah, that sounds, great and beautiful and all that other good stuff, but being intentional, again, knowing that you're in it to win it. When when you're in a relationship, when you get married, it's like, we should be a team. So, team players, they're in it to win it together. It's not a competition. I did this for you, you do this for me. That was the whole thing we talked about even in RMIC, where we played this clip and it was talking about give and take 50-50 and things like that. We don't believe that relationships, marriages are 50-50 give and take. It's giving and receiving. It's give. If you're taking something, usually you just taking something without permission. That's what I look at. It's like you just, no one giving you permission to have it. And even the 50-50, we are a full human being. There are different parts of us that we give. So giving your all is not just, when you give your all, you're not losing out. You're not exhausting yourself to the point of that. He's like, oh, well, I gave my everything, because I've heard that. I gave my all to this person and they gave me nothing. When it comes to connecting, because we talked about communicating to connect, when it comes to connecting, it's that that tandem, like you're feeding each other. Where when you're giving, you're not giving to get something in return. You're actually giving because it feels good. You're giving because you're already winning to begin with. And a lot of times we have that mindset of that, okay, I gave this person this, and that, and other, and then now I expect this stuff in return. And that's usually where a lot of relationships break down, because it's like, well, I didn't ask you. It comes to that point where the people's like, well, I didn't ask you to do this. I didn't, ask you to give me these things. And then a lot of this resentment comes into place. So we have to think about communicating to connect. Think about rules to communicating. What are our main rules? What are our rules? We have ours. Coach Nazir and Coach Fatimah, they have theirs, and everybody have their own specific rules that work for them in their marriages, in their relationships. So yeah, it's kind of the long and short of those little tidbits. And I can't see certain stuff because I'm trying to pull it up.
What about for polygyny?
Okay, what about what for polygyny? Because when it comes to
Specifically
for polygyny, well, I'm just looking to giving some of the things as a subsequent wife, incoming wife, as you will. When I actually came in and entered into polygyny, I actually had my feelings of that. My voice, I had to be very careful with the things I say, what I, if I was to say, anything, if I was feeling a certain way, those type of things, because society states and, is looked at as, incoming wives, what you gotten into, what, you're the incoming person. You can be labeled as a home wrecker, you can be labeled as, the not real wife, and, all these different things that you could be going through as an incoming wife or a subsequent wife, can cause you to be in a place where you say, well, do I say this stuff? Do I say how I'm feeling? Will it be received? How will it be received? The thing is that you have to communicate. We're adults here. Everybody, they're adults. So being able to communicate your feelings, but communicating your feelings in a way that they're understood, not only that they're understood, but that they're received, is when a lot of that comes from not complaining, not playing victim, pretty much looking at what it is and saying, well, whether really looking at the facts, but also looking at, also what you're feeling and, understanding that these are feelings that you have and you want to convey those to your spouse. Even as an initial wife, coached and trained, a number of initial wives on being able to communicate their feelings to their to their husbands, to their co-wives. It's just something that they wanted to do. And when it comes to that, and I'll go into that a little bit later, but one of the things is that making sure that when you are coming to communicate about these things, you do put a lot of your emotions, kind of like quell your emotions. And how to do that is pretty much asking yourself specific questions, asking yourself these questions like, is this just, my emotions getting the best of me? Is this true? You can prove truth, certain things, truth is a proven thing. So being able to do that and say, and then come to your spouse, if it's something you want to talk to your spouse about, difficult conversation, whether it's that you're not feeling like you're being treated fairly, or if you are not happy with, the situation, or, you have an issue, with him, marrying again or anything like that, being able to have those hard conversations and being able to state that too. Because whether a man says it or not, a lot of times we've seen that men ask about polygyny a lot, even though they were like, well, I love my wife. It doesn't stop him from loving his wife or wanting to marry again. That doesn't stop that. So being able to know these things and say, well, this is how I'm feeling. I'm feeling like, maybe it's some loss of love there, whatever the feelings are, but being in a place where you want to be receptive and that you also want them to be receptive. So that's what we talk about, rules when it comes to timing of certain situations, asking them, hey, are you in a position, for us to talk? And it's, letting them know that it's something heavy. One thing that we've gotten kind of down a little bit better than before is that stating that, hey, we need to talk about, I need to talk to you. And just that kind of be the thing that's, it's like floating in the air. So I don't know what.
Meaning that's a statement that says, oh, we need to talk.
Yeah. So those are the things that we need to talk statements, but it doesn't say about what about. And it's like, okay, me, I'm the type of person, just my personality type, I'm thinking about that all day or until we talk. I'm like, what is it? And my mind is going on what could it be? And because I don't like feeling like that, I learned to not do that, when it comes to relaying that I need to talk, especially about something that's serious and that's very important. I'm like, hey, I need to talk about this. I was feeling this type of way, and that's pretty much that. When it comes, I said I want to talk about the co-wife thing. If you want to,
I'm gonna jump in here because communication. What I spoke about, and I know some of the brothers asked questions about when it comes to polygyny in particular. So I dealt with that in our training today a little bit more from that perspective. So I dealt with being honest to yourself about what it is you want, but being honest to yourself, not other people. Starting with you and what you really want. All right, and in general, whether or not that's okay. So active listening is extremely important. So for me, I know that I need specificity with words. We know that words have power. All right, words can cause certain emotions, certain responses, different things like that. All right, so words and specificity is extremely important to me because that allows me to have clarity on what it is. That's why statements like, we need to talk. Okay, about what? I don't want to be, what is it? Let me prepare, know, or think, or reflect something. So that's important. And she used to do that until I did it to her. Until I text her, yo, we need to talk. No. Didn't tell her what it is. Yeah, I texted you.
That was until then. You did that after I got the clarity about it, but you did it.
Yeah,
and
I gave her clarity. I don't like it.
Right,
but then I did it.
Because what he does, he makes sure that he really hones in on you understanding what he meant when he says those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes you have to demonstrate it because theoretically speaking, a lot of us, we learn by immersion and by doing. We learn better by doing than by, saying something. So when somebody says something like, you know what, I can't hardly hear what you're saying because your actions are speaking so loudly. That basically means you need to talk. You got to walk the talk. So if you're going to say it, demonstrating it is much better. So for example, you can read a book all day on how to swim and not learn how to swim at all. All right, so until you get in it. So one of the things I like to do, so we don't have to revisit it again. I don't know if you're the type of person like that, but if you want to argue about the same type of thing again, have a disagreement about the same type of thing again, demonstrate it, flip the switch. So that's why I did it.
Yes.
Then she got it. She understood it theoretically the first time. And then when I did a little follow-up, like, we need to talk. Then she understood it. And it wasn't anything bad. I don't even know what to say. It was something fun or something good. So whatever.
And I was worried.
Yeah, she was worried. Because it elicits that type of response. Like, who says we need to talk other than you just need to talk? You talk. You know, you don't need permission to speak with your spouse, you know, in particular. However, I talked about active listening and also being approachable. See, sometimes you get the self-righteous individuals that come out, well, how come you didn't do this? How come you didn't do that? You know, in hindsight, you know, it's always 20/20. So when if you're not approachable about something, then you're not going to be able to receive the conversations or even be able to step in to assist or help if needed. So if your children don't feel comfortable coming to you with something, or you don't feel comfortable as a child going to your parent with something, maybe something you didn't tell your parent when you were younger. All right? How does that feel? That maybe they thought you would have had a certain response, even if they're wrong, even if they have no idea, because again, our brains aren't even fully developed until we're 25 years old. So how does it feel to know that you're not approachable to bring something to that's important? All right, how has that been destroying our families for generations? So being approachable means you're self-aware. Now, me, I know my personality type. Some people say it's intimidating. All right. Some people say I can be crass or direct or blunt. And I just call it how I see it. It is what it is. I know it's my personality type. I know there's certain ways you can say certain things. I understand that. And I'm not going to sugarcoat stuff. I'm not going to make excuses. But depending on my audience or who I'm speaking with, you have to know how to project the positive energy or the energy that is receptive. Okay. And we talked about how to actually do that in the training when I will get into here, but that's important. Then, of course, expressing things in the best way you know how. All right, expressing things the best way you know how. It might not be, and usually isn't, because it's yelling or getting all the way frustrated, having a temper tantrum or something like that. But expressing things the best way you know how. So for me, I'm better expressing stuff on writing, typing, texting, whatever. Not texting. But like writing it out so it's clarity. I don't need to hear any rebuttals. I get my thoughts out clearly. You can't respond to the paper. You have to actually talk to me on it. I'm better that way than vocally. You know, women tend to usually win that battle because they usually speak more, except right now.
Yeah, I don't. I learned to do that. Not even that it wasn't something that I was good at. I learned my own communication styles, and that on paper I like it better because of that reason, the rebuttal, because that's what I would get, you know, from whatever when I speak, and even when it comes to my feelings. That's why even coming into polygyny, where it's like, okay, if I say this, somebody gonna, you know, demote my feelings because of whatever they feel. And because that's a certain thing that I've dealt with in so many areas in my life, that I was like, you know what, it's better for me to probably just write it down. Maybe they can see it, understand it, see it from, you know, and I'm like, maybe I can read it too. What I do is when I write down the stuff, I read it again and again and again to see if it's something that I want to send out, whether it's a text, whether it's an email, whether it's a letter. I read my stuff over and over and over again. And that's a different, you can't do that when you're speaking. When you say something and something just fly out of your mouth in the heat of a moment, or you didn't say it the right way and you wish you would have said it a different way, you can't do that speaking. Now, I'm not saying that speaking is, you know, wrong, you know, just saying it verbally is a wrong way. It's just, you know what your preference is. And, you know, if you can, you know, get your thoughts down on paper, what you want to say. Even when I want to have a serious conversation with him, I write speaking points down. I write what I want to say, what I want to speak about. And so I know, so I stay on track. So I don't forget anything in the midst of the conversation, because it's not one-sided. He'll have some things to say, and, you know, we'll probably get off on that than, you know, the other stuff that I wanted to say, because I would get off track. So I have to, you know.
And it's rare, but that's just one good technique. But shout out to High Point, North Carolina. Sister Umi. From Seattle. This is our IG stuff. That's what I'm checking here. And we have Facebook and YouTube on the laptop. Miami, of course. Miami sounds really nice right now. Turkey, of course, Finland, and then the Netherlands. That's like super dope. Conscious and self-awareness. So getting to a couple other parts. Difficult conversations. Difficult conversations can help lead to conflict diffusion. I prefer that over resolution. And here's the thing. When Coach Fatimah, for example, talks about difficult conversations and having the difficult conversations, one, making sure you're approachable. All of these things kind of fall in a domino effect, starting with being honest to yourself. But of course, this is in our relationship mastery inner circle where we have our downloads and worksheets and everything in private Q&A with us. But when it comes to conflict dissolution and being able to have difficult conversations, you have to add all the stuff up. You know, have you been honest with yourself? What are you expecting from this relationship? Are you practicing, active listening? Are you approachable? And are you able to handle the situation with courage? See, one of the challenges when it comes to polygyny in particular is that, okay, how do I address this with the person? And I don't want them to feel a certain way. And I want them to feel this or to think that. Listen, you can't control that. We are not able to control someone else's emotions. They choose to feel however they want to feel. All right? That doesn't mean you're careless. That doesn't mean you are thoughtless with your words. That just means that you must be more meticulous with it and demonstrate better understanding. All right, if you want to get across, well, I just, it's my nature, I'm going to do this and blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah, that's cool. However, that doesn't demonstrate your ability to handle things in the future when there's conflict. All right, and we know that one of the most attractive characters of a woman is that above being the fit and the fun, the feminine and friendly is being cooperative. You want somebody that's going to build with you and work with you and help you achieve the vision is everything for the family. Understanding is best for the family. You have to make those decisions. But in doing so, in making that transition from monogamy to polygyny, for example, you have to demonstrate courage. And I spoke on that, I think a couple of weeks ago. We have a YouTube video and so on talking about, why I didn't tell Coach Fatimah before I married Coach Nyla. I told her after the fact. Now, I've learned from that. We've learned from that because we talk about best practices. It's best to speak about it before that, be able to have the discussion before. But it's not the easiest, especially if maturation isn't there. Especially if a person is not necessarily as mature, or they have a temper tantrum, or you hear statements that say, "Oh, this is going to affect my iman." Like, what? Your faith? How's it going to affect your foundation of your faith? Any man or any woman? How is anything? Like, what is the equivalent for the women who think that? What is the equivalent? This is my question to you. What is the equivalent for a man to say something is going to shake his faith? What on the planet is going to shake your faith in your Lord, in the heart, in the truth? And you saying it's polygyny? That Al-Hakim, the all-wise, already regulated? I mean, that's just, it is what it is. But that type of thinking or communicating with somebody that actually feels, oh, this is going to just cause me to lose my mind, everything else, and da-da-da, and I know what's going to. If you knew, then if you had already known, then it already would have hit you. And I made the comment last week that if many women wanted to remove any ayat from the Quran to be an ayat in polygyny, and it's sad because the wisdoms in it given by the Most High in this temporary life are on a whole nother level. So with that being said, that may lead to the next part. If a person is not approachable, if a wife is not approachable, then you get to conflict avoidance. So sometimes sisters, you should have told me, we should have did this and blah, blah, blah. And then they go to, well, why did you marry in private and so on? And I didn't know about it. And later, he could have told me, when in reality, he probably couldn't have told you and did it the way he saw fit. That may not have been the best. But of course, we can, hypothesize on how things could and should have been when they weren't done. But like I let people know, listen, you got to get your shift together. You do. You got to get your shift together because you got to shift internally your thinking. You have to provide yourself with larger and more perspectives in order for it to manifest on your external. Because you may think it's great. Sisters may play the victim role and might think, oh, this is too much or it's blah, 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 right? But they're not getting their shift together. They're not recognizing you're on your way to death. We're closer to that. I'm closer to that than I am my birth. And Allah Ta'ala knows best. But if we don't get our shift together, meaning we have to shift and grow, then we remain stuck. And many men know this. Many men like to bring about the conversation. I don't like the whole thing of the man shaming or you just do this for, you dismissive against men. So it's like, oh, you just hypersexual or sexualized and all this. You just dismiss it to a form of sex, saying polygyny is it's just for sexual gratification. when in reality, there's a whole bunch of different ways to get sexual gratification than actually marry somebody. We're living in a society right now that's pushing the whole trans agenda, the gay marriage and everything else, and you're talking about, oh, you can only have sex with marriage? No, if you morally want to do it, yeah, of course. And we're pro-morals. But yeah, it's much bigger than sex. And if sex is gonna make you fall apart, that's what it is, ask yourself the question, you think your husband married just you only for sex? Do you see how dismissive it is when we relegate to something like that? We have to be adults, we have to be mature, all right? So I dealt with that, conflict avoidance, and having difficult conversations and really stepping it up because it's extremely important. Communication on many different levels, beyond the tonality, beyond just the basic body language, but doing the little things, understanding their love languages, and adding it up, building that account, if you will.
Kind of went through, kind of some of the stuff that I trained on for the most part. You said something and I totally forgot. Lost my train of thought. In the gist of what you were saying. Going on so, yeah, and I didn't want to interrupt you, so, but I forgot. So, maybe
representing Sierra Leone from Milwaukee, by way of Milwaukee. Whoa, place where I was born. King Kenyatta, exactly. No 50-50 in Islam, we give 100%. Mm-hmm. Indeed, indeed. All right, so just as a question. What if you just let it go to the point where you want him to move on and you don't want to be a part of polygyny no more and it's not for you? So.
I mean, just communicating that with him. I mean, I don't, when it comes to that, there's really nothing. If you make the decision, we are in charge of our own decisions. So if we make the decision that it's not for us anymore, and we're saying it's not for us, and this is not what we want, you created it. You already put it out there that this is what it is. You're not, this is what you want, this is what you don't want, or whatever the case may be. And no one can change us but us. That's the thing that we have to understand as women, we have to understand as men, we have to understand as human beings that we are responsible for our own change. So being manipulative, saying, well, I'm going to do this to make him do this, or I'm going to do this to make her do that, good luck, because technically they did it because either they it was the lesser of two evils, or because they wanted to. Either way, it still was their decision. It wasn't something you made them do. So they can't make you do it. So it's just nothing really that I can say to say, if you don't want it anymore, what do you do? What do you do? Communicate that. If that's something that you really want, that you don't, or you really don't want, communicate it. You want them to move on? Tell them you want them to move on. Tell them you don't want to do it anymore. It make me think of.
And that's easier said than done. So,
yeah,
because here's the thing. When I made a decision for polygyny, I knew what the vision was for my family. I knew how I wanted it to be. I knew what it should look like. And now we're sitting here, alhamdulillah, 11 years later, living out that vision with a bigger family. All right, so the family is not only larger, it's tighter, it's more mature, it's focused on growth and everything else. So had it been on most women that are first wives or what have you, they wouldn't want polygyny, the fear of loss of love and everything else. There are those who are mature and understand some of the wisdom behind it that would definitely want it, and it makes much more sense. But then you get those who are like, oh no, I just can't handle it and everything else. And really, is that the case though? Is it just something emotional, or is there something bad going on? I mean, ask yourself, would you be married to this person just monogamously and be okay? Because listen, I'm gonna tell you something. If you're already in an abusive relationship, you're getting beat up, you're getting restrained and all kind of other actual abuse that's going on, you don't need to be in that marriage. But you hear some people that are in horrible marriages, and the husband decided to practice polygyny. All right? Actually, that's a relief for her because he's not around all the time. But then they get mad and want that man as though it's just a competition. It's not about the abuse and things that are going on until after he marries somebody else. Then now the stuff comes out. So would you be married to the man and be okay with him if it was just you? Or are there other things within you that needs to shift? Again, one of the things we need to understand, not only just getting your shift together, is also to make sure you stop shooting all over yourself We should all over on ourselves. How many people made New Year's resolutions 6 months ago? Almost half the year is gone. How many follow through? They should all over themselves, right? I should do this. I should do that. I should get to the gym. I should learn this trade. I should learn this, and I should do this, and I should do that. And 2020 hitting the virus and all kind of excuses. But people should all over themselves, right? So we need to stop shooting on ourselves and get our shift together. And that being the case, that means we have to accept responsibility. We have to accept that we have self-efficacy and can move things forward. But it takes that shift. It takes the recognition, one, I'm not perfect, I need to grow. What are the resources? Well, one of the resources that we talk about is, and while we're talking to you right now, because we were already here, we finished up a training, it was about 90 minutes. And we're going deep into these issues. Right now, you can't do that with just a short live on social media. So for those who are committed versus being, just curious, they should go to the site, check it out. Screen at the bottom of your screen right now, outstandingpersonalrelationships.com/RM. Look at what we got, see if it makes sense to you. Is the next 6 months of this year going to be better than the first 6 months of the year? Or how many more 6 months do we want to pass and not have fulfilling and joyful relationships? That's a question you have to ask. If you want out, you're an adult. There's no relationship that you have that you're required to be a part of. Period. Yep, I'm married to Coach Fatimah. Yes, I'm married to Coach Nyla. We are individuals. She could decide to opt out anytime, disappear. We heard those stories. Dad went to the store to get some cigarettes and just never came back type stuff. All right, we make decisions every day, decisions to do something or decisions not to do something. Now, whether or not they're for our best benefit is really to be seen. But there are no relationships that force you to stay in them. Even employer, employee, parent, child, you look at abandonment and everything else. So whether or not it's serving you or if you are even serving yourself is important to come to that study, that conclusion, and whether or not it's an emotional thing. We had a number of different people, even just on the growth that they got from our YouTube channel. I mean, it's one of the heartwarming things that happen. You see people's growth over time. Like there might be some posts or some videos someone might just now see that we put out a year ago. And there was a young lady who really has some issues, with polygyny and everything. She voiced it, and we don't delete comments unless you're just out there bad and ridiculous. So someone responded to her response, like, yo, Islam is this and that, da-da-da. I don't know. She wasn't Muslim, I don't think, at the time. Anyway, she had accepted Islam and all that. She was like, I did that post. She said, I said that like a year ago. I agree and I understand. I've grown. And that type of growth is very important and it's rare. So definitely evaluate yourself and getting your shift together. And if you need some resources, again, that's what we're here for. outstandingpersonalrelationships.com. Go download our checklist to a fulfilling, happy relationship, especially in polygyny. Anyway, we want to wrap in like about 5 minutes or so. So if you have any more questions, put question marks in front of them. We'll see them, work to address them. And if you don't have any questions, we're going to wrap right now. So we're going to wait for you. If you have any questions, we go ahead and check IG. And if you have anything else to say.
I was going to say something again. As I started to say something and I forgot it again. So, the leaving, not wanting to stay in it or anything like that. Just like Coach Nazir said, if it's, think about if it was just you. But if it's something still, you think about it as just being you and you want to get out of it, not just a polygyny thing, but now it's like, oh, I kind of now have an excuse to actually kind of get out of it. The thing is, still it's about communicating it. And it just reminds me of a couple where the husband was like, no, I didn't get married to get divorced. So, because in his mind, if he got a divorce, that was where the failure was. It was like, that was failure for him, getting a divorce. It wasn't that you got a jacked up marriage. It's like, people would know now that my marriage is jacked up, because now divorce is on the table. But his wife at the time asked him, like, why would you stay with someone who really don't want to be, in the camera, but that's okay. Why would you want to stay with someone who don't want to be with you. Like, why? Who doesn't want to be with you? My grammar is off today, guys, seriously. Why would you want to be with someone like, I mean, why would you want to put yourself in that situation? You're a great guy, just not the great guy for me, right? Whatever type of thing. So it's certain things that's like that, where it's like we were young when we got married, all these different things, and just realize that we aren't that fit for each other. So why stay in this place where we are not happy with one another? So you're stuck here and I'm stuck here just because of an ego thing, just because of something to say, well, I don't want people to look at us or look at me as that I'm a failure because of this type of thing. If that's the case, then that's the case. But sometimes we do let our emotions run wild and cut off things that are very beneficial to us just because of one thing that we don't like that can benefit us later once we mature and get our minds together. So definitely make sure before that conversation you ask yourself those serious, hard questions.
Perhaps you like a thing which is bad for you, you dislike a thing which is good for you. Words are wise. All right, so any questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, ideas? Yay, nay, All right, if not, we're going to go ahead and wrap.
All right, well, thank you guys for joining us on a Sunday Q&A. Make sure you are practicing GLC, that you are growing intentionally, loving fearlessly, and connecting on a higher level every single day. Until next time, assalamu alaikum.
Peace. Assalamu alaikum.